day to you. This is Anagalactic from Chico, California on the 23rd day of November. That's from 1908, and that's done by a man named Minkowski. Minkowski. Something that Einstein was interested in. You'll see there's a triangle going up, and inside of the triangle is a curve. Those of you who have studied space-time geometry understand exactly what you're looking at. The orange line going straight up, that is time. That's the time arrow. The two perpendicular lines that are straight and in black, that is the path of a photon. And the hyperbola that's embedded inside the two perpendicular lines, and those are perpendicular, although they don't have to be. But in space-time geometry, it's much more convenient to treat time as being perpendicular with space. So this is Hermann Minkowski's idea, and Einstein stole it. So Einstein stole this from Hermann Minkowski, and Minkowski was perfectly well aware that Einstein stole this from him. Einstein actually studied with Minkowski for a while, and Minkowski was a very good mathematician, and he knew some geometry. In those days, mathematicians had to know geometry. It was part of their training. That is no longer true. Mathematicians are required to disregard geometry in order to make the numbers work. And that's what's caused all the problems. So that's what we're going to be talking about today as we explore space-time geometry, an extraordinarily difficult subject which you're so fortunate to be watching my channel. If you want to know about space-time geometry, this is the right place and the right time to learn it. No one else will ever teach it to you correctly. No one else ever will. But I will, because I solved that problem. So the key to understanding space-time geometry, you see, that is a killer word. If you say space-time, well, then you can smile. You don't need to know anything. Oh, you said space-time. You're a smartass. No, you're not. Not unless you know geometry, you're not a smartass in either sense. So why is there a hyperbola? Have you ever seen a hyperbola? I'm sure that you have. But could you describe a hyperbola? You know how you can do that? You get a flashlight. Or actually, just a shade lamp. And if you turn on the shade lamp and it's open at the top, the light structure on the wall, if the shade lamp is close to the wall, the light that comes out of the circular aperture at the top will make a perfect hyperbola on the wall. And if you don't have an open circular shade lamp, you can get a flashlight and shine it parallel would be best. And the light structure that you'll see on the wall, if you hold it parallel with a wall in a dark room, that will be a hyperbola. The hyperbola has a very specific mathematical meaning, but in geometry it's an extraordinarily important curve because it forms a family of curves. Now, whether or not you're aware of any of this, don't let this daunt you. Don't ever let these mathematicians bully you around with their equations. They're lost in their equations, and you can read a book about that called Lost in Math by Dr. Sabine Hossenfelder of Deutschland. Now, Minkowski was also in Deutschland when he drew this in 1908. But we don't want to look at that because, take one last glance at it. You might see the chicken scratch below it. This is a remarkably confused and ineffective drawing. Minkowski knew geometry well enough to understand that it was possible to compose a very, very advanced, difficult, actually transdimensional, non-existent, but useful formulation of space parallel. Is it parallel? No, it's not parallel. Perpendicular. And Einstein was able to show that space and time are perpendicular. And I'm sure you know the synonym for that, orthogonal. Orthogonal. That's a right angle. A right angle. Okay, that's enough torture. Now what we want to do is take a quick look at this. Oh boy, that's a lot better, isn't it? It's a lot better in a certain sense. What is that? Now you've probably seen this before, but if you say that you understand it, you are a liar. But I will make a truthful man or person out of you. This is easy to understand if you know what I know. But if you don't know what I know, which you don't, this is impossible to understand. Impossible to understand. So, you'll notice that there is a cone. That is a cone. And you've heard of it. The light cone. Do you know what it is? Is it a cone? No. There is no such thing as a cone in the universe. That's something that mankind, or man, invented basically to confuse the shit out of himself. There's no such thing in the universe as a cone. However, if you're trying to cheat nature and force time into a relationship with space that it simply does not have, then you can do this. So what is it? I'll give you some choices. What is the light cone? It's space, it's time, or it's light. Okay, I think you know it's light. But how does light travel as a cone? Does it? No. How does light travel? It travels as a sphere. And it also travels in a specific direction, which is shown on this. You can call it a graph. You can call it a diagram. It's a representation in visual space. That's why we make diagrams, because they're not numbers. Because in order to understand anything in the universe, it has to be visual. Visual. Blind people have this visual perceptual system just as well as a person who has eyes. Mostly our eyes deceive us, and I think you're well aware of that. Time deceives us, space deceives us, light deceives us, photons, electrons, protons, all of them totally deceive us. Not quite. No, but you have to actually be smart. But you have to be smart, not in the way a mathematician is smart. You have to be smart, first of all, by being sincere. And it's only with that sincerity that you'll be able to conquer all the conundrums, paradoxes, and mistakes that are strewn in your path by people who are rich. Rich. They make money off of science. Money. You know what that means. I've taught you. So let's get into it. Let's find out what this actually is. But in order to do so, I want to make sure that this is crystal clear to you. So there is a much simplified diagram of the exact same thing. This is exactly the same thing as this. Now, do you see the light cone? I think you do. It's actually colored as light. And the dark area, you'll see it has a very strange label, elsewhere. So what I want you to understand first of all is this is a projection. This is a projection of 4D down to 3D, where 3D is represented as a 2D flattened cone, but you'll see that it's shaded so as to show that it's actually 3D. That cone is 3D. That cone is 3D, but it's shown as 2D because it's a flat surface. But you see that it's not 2D. It sticks out. It has depth. It's artificial. Your mind is tricking you. That's why I told you. Your mind will trick you. This is the reason why. The reason why your mind tricks you is because you think that you can see depth. No, you can't see depth. Not the same way that you see your flat screen image. You see a flat screen image. You see a computer screen in the universe. It's a flat computer screen. Your brain can only see a flat image, can only see a flat image. That's why these diagrams can be enhanced with a shading, where you see the cone goes up and it goes down. Where it goes down is meaningless. That's the reflection of time going. It's not really going anywhere. If you want to consider what that past light cone is, it's all the light that's converging on you. See where it says observer and it's pointing to the center? That's you. That's called the frame of reference. It has to be you. It can't be anything else except you. You are the observer. You are. You are the observer. So where are you situated? It's called the reference frame. You're situated at the reference frame. What is it? It's 0, 0, 0, comma, 0. That's what that is. That's the center. That's the observer. That's the frame of reference. You can think of it as now. It is now. All right. So what is the hypersurface of the present? You see that there's a square, and it's elongated to show you it's a 2D square lying on its side, correct? So it says that space goes along this surface. This is from Wikipedia, and I'm going to show you the incredible errors. The errors that are embedded in this diagram are unbelievably horrific. Unbelievably horrific. Let's go back here and take a look at this. Not that. This. Now, this is a simplified version where it's strictly 2D, and nobody's making any pretending angled surfaces or shaded surfaces to fool you. To fool you. This is not meant to fool you because it's so simple. You'll see right through the agony of this goddamned diagram. The light cone is a mirage that was invented by imbeciles to explain an industrial miracle. Einstein produced space-time for only one reason. He did not know, I'm sure, why he produced it, but I'll just say it is known now what space-time is good for. Do you know the one and only use of space-time? What is it? You've got to answer this now, but I'll tell you, never give a quiz unless you give the answer. This is not an industrial university, college, or trade fucking school. This is where you learn things that matter. You're at Anagalactic. You're in good hands. But I have to present you with a question to get you to think about it. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. You know what O is. It's you. It's now. It's the center. It's the reference frame. It's the frame of reference. It's the frame of reference for a general relativistic projection. down from imaginary space. This is as simple as it gets. So the center is the frame of reference. What is the horizontal line? Do you know? You try to guess. What is labeled X? What is that horizontal line? That's space. That's 3D space. That's spherical 3D space on that line. See a problem with that? You will in a moment. What is the vertical line? That is time. And it's only on that line. Space is only on the horizontal line. Time is only on the vertical line. Time is on the vertical line. Is that simple? Yes. But what does this mean? Almost nothing. But I'll show you that this actually gives the industrial empire, whatever you might conceive that to be. I call it America, but I think you realize that it's not America at all. Except that America is one of its names. And that's what's in outer space, is America. America conquered outer space using this diagram. This is miraculous for whatever consciousness is interested in getting into outer space. Are humans getting into outer space? Are we trying to get into outer space? Are you happy that humans are in outer space? You might be, I am, but you're also a little bit dismayed if you're a rational man. Because what the fuck are the governments doing in outer space? I think you know, and you definitely know if you saw Star Wars. If you saw that movie by George Lucas, you know the significance of this diagram. This leads to space war. Because you can get your attack craft into the sky above the atmosphere and power around as far as the moon. The Chinese have landed on the far side of the moon. The Americans are going back to the moon. It's just been decided. You can check that. We're going back. We, white man, as my mother would say, no, we are not going back to the moon. That's one of the stupidest things that a human could ever even conceive of doing, is going into outer space. Nature forbids it. Nature forbids it. You'll die. But you may want to risk your life in order to get very powerful weapons above the heads of your enemies. Oh, really? I'm just making that up, huh? No, I'm not. That's the actual situation. Do you remember what happened when air flight was discovered? Remember the Wright brothers? Oh my God, the Wright brothers! Isn't that just heartwarming? You have to read Robinson Jeffers, who was alive when that happened. He was a very young man, but he saw what happened when men learned how to fly through the air. They started killing millions of each other. That's the only reason to learn how to fly. Now, you and I benefit from air flight, correct? Yeah, but that's a spin-off. Well, we also benefit from the photographs of the Hubble Space Telescope and now the James Webb Telescope. There are hundreds of telescopes flying around in the sky now. Hundreds of them. Do you know how many of them are used for peaceful purposes? None of them. Not one. And the James Webb Telescope is not there to make your life better. Does it? Makes my life better. You have to skim the cream off the top, but underneath is poison. This is a space-time diagram that I'm now going to explain to you, and we're going to close this off and then have another lecture where I'm going to explain to you the nuts and bolts of general relativity, space-time, gravity. It's not gravity. It's not space-time. And there's no general relativity. Einstein failed in all three of his goals. He wanted a general reference frame, He failed. That O proves it. That's not a general reference frame. It's more generalized than a special reference frame. But it's not a universal reference frame. And it does not describe gravity. Not at all. And space-time is not curved. Space has no characteristics. It can't curve, although I'll show you later that could be challenged, and I would be proved wrong. You know who proved me wrong? I did. Because no one else can do it. Because no one knows the characteristics of space. Einstein added time to space. Well, he's a frizzy-haired maniac, as Ken Wheeler says. Ken Wheeler is a magnetist who calls Albert Einstein a frizzy-haired maniac. Ken Wheeler hates Albert Einstein. And Ken Wheeler has very, very good reason for hating Albert Einstein. So do I. But not as a man. As a slave. And he produced this shit. You notice that the cone going up is the future. Do you know where reality is in this diagram? It's in that upper triangle. The rest of it is shit. Where it says elsewhere, that's not even part of the graph. It should be erased. And if you notice, not that. That's where it originated in Minkowski's mind. This. Sorry, I missed again. Oops, we're getting to that. Oh, we're getting to that. What about... the hell did it go? Oh, I think I overwrote it. Sorry about that. This is where I get to in the next lecture. We're going to cover this. We're going to cover this. We're going to cover that. But I think I've lost my... here's some more. You can see it's all hyperboles. Hyperbole. How the hell I lost this? Well, I'm sorry about that, but you know what? We can find it real fast. Let's do so. Let's go to the Wikipedia article, visit. There's space-time. We'll scroll right down here and find it again. It's pretty easy. There! That's where I got them from. Open, image in new tab. There it is. You notice that there's nothing in most of the graph. Do you see that square? That's a square that's coming out from the vertex of the double cone. The past light cone does not exist. The future light cone, you could say it exists as a projection into the future. But there is no past. There is only future. There's no such thing as the past. Because you can't prove that it exists anymore. Can you prove that the future exists? If you have the right axiomatic approach, you can. But what is that square? It's a lie. It's called the hypersurface of the present. You know what it actually is? It's not a square. It's not even a plane. It's a sphere. This represents spherical space. And that cone going up, you know what's inside the cone? An expanding sphere. And that's enough! That's all you can handle. That's 25 minutes. You will stay tuned, or you're never going to know what space-time is. This is Anagalactic, bringing you the secrets of the universe. We're also going to be covering that circle pretty damn intensely. So you'll finally know something about general relativity, space-time, and gravity. I've discovered the quantum of gravity. I've discovered quantum gravity. And that solves the quantum paradox. I'll show you the collapse of the wave function so that you can see it. And I'm going to show you so much more. Your head is going to explode, but not badly. Okay? That's how it goes in this world. You either listen to the nutcases like Minkowski and Einstein, and you serve the government and the industrial complex and the destruction of the world and the destruction of man and the defeat of science and the rape of humanity, or you listen to me. Those are your only two choices.